Do you see yourself? Or is that you in the camera? We have a little friend stopping by to say hello. She still sees herself in the camera. Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another tutorial. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make cosplay armor using both Worbla and foam. The majority of this armor was built using black Worbla from Worbla North America. This happens to be the armor in question that I will be showing you how to make. For anybody who is unfamiliar with this character, this is Jeanne D'Arc, or Jeanne D'Arc Alter specifically, from the Fate Grand Order game. While this is the specific example that I'm using for this video, all the techniques shown in this video are things you can use on your own build so that you can make whatever you would like. For anyone unfamiliar with Worbla, it is a thermoplastic sheet. It comes in a bunch of different sizes. When it is heated, it becomes very soft and pliable. However, once it is cooled, it is really nice and firm. So it's really good for things that you want to be like hefty and sturdy. So, if you would like to learn how to make your own sets of armor, or would just like to see how I made this set of armor, keep watching! To start this process, I'm making a duct tape pattern. To do this, you'll need plastic wrap, some duct tape, a marker, and some scissors to cut it off in the end. Start by wrapping whatever form you're using in plastic wrap. You can do this process easily on yourself with a helping set of hands. I am making mine on my dress form so that I can show the process better. Once you have a layer of plastic wrap, cover over your form with duct tape. The plastic wrap will act like a protective barrier between the tape and your form, making sure that nothing sticks. Patterning with this method can sometimes get a little weird. When you've covered everything in duct tape, you can start drawing out your pattern. I used the lines on my mannequin to get a front, back, and middle seam. I then began drawing the shapes that I wanted. To finish, I drew on the decorative layers that I'd need. When everything is drawn out to your liking, you can start cutting the pattern off of the form. If you did this on a person, be extra careful when cutting. Now you have a pattern tailored perfectly to fit you. Cut your pattern apart at the seams. I transferred my pattern to paper and added any adjustments that I needed. Take your pattern and transfer it onto 2mm foam. Once you have everything drawn out, cut it out with a sharp craft knife. For the armored corset, you should end up with 4 pieces for the front and 4 pieces for the back. For this project, I am using black Worbla. Worbla comes with one shiny adhesive side and one matte side. To begin working with Worbla, you'll need a surface that you can get warm. You'll also need a heat gun. Heat-safe gloves are optional, but recommended. And lastly, you'll need a rolling pin and some scissors. To cover all of my foam pieces, I will be using the fold-over method. Simply trace your pattern piece onto the Worbla, then draw out tabs around the piece. When heating, you'll be able to fold these tabs over to the back. You could also use the sandwich method. Now, taking your Worbla and its matching foam piece, begin by heating the shiny adhesive side of the Worbla. You'll know when it's warm enough because it will have gone a matte finish and will also be very pliable. Press your foam to the hot Worbla, and I like to use a rolling pin to help press out any air. Carefully reheat your Worbla as needed and start folding those tabs over to the back of your piece. If you do happen to get an air bubble, simply poke it with a pin and gently work the air out with your fingers. While the Worbla is still warm, you'll need to shape it. You can also join any pieces that you would like before or after shaping. I'm using my dress form again, but you could also shape on yourself. Just be very careful not to burn yourself. I chose to join the top and bottom of my corset together after shaping simply because it was easier to shape these two pieces separate.
To reinforce my seams, I'm putting down strips of mesh Worbla. You could also use black Worbla, however the mesh is just a little bit stronger. I repeated this for the back, leaving the back middle seam open so that I could add lacing later. With the base made, you can now decorate your armor however you would like. For the design that I am making, she has a couple of layered elements on top of the original base. You can easily add layers like this with more 2mm foam and Worbla. Another way you can add detail is using your Worbla scraps. When heated, Worbla scraps can really easily be like a moldable clay for details. You can hand sculpt details if you'd like, or an easy method I like using is silicone molds. Most silicone molds are made to handle heat, making them ideal for Worbla. To do this, simply heat up your scraps and squish them into a ball. If you find that the Worbla is too hot, using heat-safe gloves is good to protect your hands. Squish the hot Worbla into whatever mold you would like. For this particular set of armor, I'm using a rope trim mold and several different filigree molds. Pop your Worbla details from the mold and carefully place it onto your Worbla. You can use a craft knife or sculpting tool to help enhance any details. I repeated all of these steps for the rest of my armor. The vast majority of this armor was made out of Worbla, however I chose to make the arms and the hips out of foam, purely because I wanted something more flexible for movement. As you can see, foam armor can very easily require a lot of pieces to achieve the shape that you want. I prefer using 5mm foam for my base. You'll also need to use contact cement to stick everything together. Foam can also be heat shaped, but not to the extremes of Worbla. Perhaps you're wondering why you would choose to use Worbla over foam. Simply put, foam armor is very lightweight, but also can be damaged easily. On the other hand, Worbla adds some weight, but is very sturdy in the end. A general rule of thumb is to always use Worbla if a piece is going to take a lot of stress or could possibly be easily damaged. I chose to make this armor mostly out of Worbla because I wanted the freedom of movement without the fear of creasing the corset. I decorated my foam armor much the same way I did the Worbla pieces, just with different materials. I added 2mm foam layered details, and I also used foam clay in place of the Worbla scraps for my filigree. Foam clay can be pretty sticky, so if you find it's hard to get your pieces from the mold, simply pop them in the freezer. You can use flat back pearls to add fake rivets to both the Worbla and the foam pieces. A trick that I personally like to use when making foam armor is to use puffy paint for scroll detailing. When all of your armor has been made, you'll need to prime everything before painting. For the Worbla, I sprayed everything with a few coats of filler primer. Once the primer had dried, I sanded everything smooth. For the foam armor, I'm using a variety of brush-on primers from T&T Cosplay Supply, but you could also use Flex Bond or Plasti Dip. With all of the priming complete, I sprayed everything down with a matte black base coat. To really bring out all that fine detail, highlighting and weathering is going to make a huge difference. To start, I took some watered down black acrylic paint and gave everything a black wash. Before this dried, I took a wet paper towel and wiped off the paint from the high points. I also used the paper towel to feather the paint in around the edges. I further darkened some of the recessed areas with the same black paint, but this time straight from the tube. This last painting step is what really brings out the detail. To finish everything off, I took a little bit of silver rub and buff and hit all of the fine details and raised areas. As you've probably guessed, to be able to wear your armor, you're going to need some attachments. For this particular armor, I used a variety of different methods. For the armored corset, I added grommets to the back so that I could put in lacing. I also added industrial strength Velcro to the side, along with little buckles for extra support. The industrial Velcro does come with adhesive to the back, but I tend to find it's not very strong, so I always reinforce it with super glue. For the chest, hip, and shoe pieces, I used D-rings to help attach everything. I attached the D-rings to the back of my pieces using some more Worbla. The neck pieces received some chains as to match the design. The shoes got some lacing, and to the hips I added some little clips so that I could just snap them in place. Woo! It's been a lot of work, but with that, I'd say this armor is complete. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found it useful. Leave a comment about what armor you would like to build. Subscribe for more tutorials, and as always, I hope you have a wonderful day. Goodbye!
Oh, okay.